I am excited to introduce our teacher, Rabbi. Welcome back, Rabbi Rachael Bregman. She is the rabbi of Congregation Beth Tefillah in Brunswick, Georgia. She's, as you told me a minute ago, Rabbi Bregman, she's pretty much the rabbi of coastal Georgia. Should we say the Rebbe of coastal Georgia?
Sometimes I can convince people to call me. So I'm in the city called Brunswick. I convince people to call me the Brunswicker Rebbe, but it hasn't stuck anywhere. But I'm going to try here. Maybe this will work.
Oh, that's good. I like that. So I'm going to share my screen here. Let's join together in the blessing for study, and then we'll turn things over to Rabbi Bregman for this week's class. Please join me. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kidshanu b'mitzvotav, v'tzivanu la'asok b'divrei Torah. Blessed is the Eternal, whose mitzvot, whose commandments bring holiness to our lives, and who commands us to immerse, to engage in words of Torah. Rabbi Rachael Bregman, take it away.
Thank you so much, Micah. Thank you so much that you are building this world, this virtual world. I think it's a really incredible space. The more time I spend here, the more I appreciate it and you and everybody who comes in. I'm going to share my screen and we're going to jump right in. Um, so, so we're talking about hope today, and I love this. Jonathan Sacks, who was the chief rabbi of England for, um, I don't remember how many years, several decades, um, put together this article that is on My Jewish Learning if you want to go learn more about his ideas, called "Jews Invented Hope." Now Rabbi Sacks died in 2020, and I first came across this article before that. So I want you to keep in mind, here we are in 2025, that what he put together as meaningful and like he felt driven to create an article about Jews invented hope pre 2020, and we're going to look at it now, how much the world has changed and is changing during this time. I'd like to dedicate our study today to a friend of mine. Her mom just died. Her mom's name was Myrna Berg. And one of the things we do as Jews is we dedicate our study to people in their memory or for their healing or in celebration. I spoke with my friend today. I just learned of her mother's passing. And as she shared with me about the death of her mom, it just gave me so much hope. And I asked her if it was okay if we honored her mother's memory by studying. Myrna, when she died, she was surrounded by family. She was in her 80s, and she celebrated Shabbat as the very last thing that she did. And her daughter said that was the perfect ending to her life. And I thought that was just so beautiful. It made me feel like we're all going to be okay. So may her memory be a blessing for all of us as well. So Rabbi Jonathan Sacks, I just told you a little bit about him. Here's a picture of him. He really has a distinguished career. He was friends with Schneerson, and who encouraged him to go into the rabbinate, which was an excellent choice for him. He studied philosophy. He's a really smart guy. If you don't know Jonathan Sacks's work, I highly recommend it. He writes about interfaith. He writes about Judaism. He writes about Passover. I mean, he wrote about everything, and had such a beautiful way about him in his teaching. So one of the things that he said that really struck me is that Judaism is the voice of hope in the conversation of mankind. I just want to hold that for a second. Judaism is the voice of hope in the conversation of mankind. And thinking for a minute about our history as Jews, I don't think we would necessarily think of ourselves as the harbingers of hope. I think historically we are people who have really been challenged by the world, who've been fought by the world regularly. And so I think that he's got this outrageous idea. So I want to take a second and stop my share and ask you all just to reflect on this with me for a second. What do you think it means to have Judaism be the voice of hope in humankind? How do you see Jews as being the voice of hope? Yeah, Cheryl, go ahead. Unmute first and then go ahead.
Um, I think because we've been around for so long and so many times we've been attacked, and so many times we've had enemies try to demolish us, try to get rid of us, try to convert us to their ways. And each time we've survived anyway and come back strong. And if we can survive that and that and that and that, we can survive whatever.
Cheryl, you know the joke. Every Jewish holiday is about three things, right? They tried to kill us,
Yep.
we survived, let's eat.
Yep.
I'm writing down I just wrote down the sort of topics that you just shared, right? Longevity, resilience, and we are a stiff-necked people, which is my words from the Torah, not yours, but our stubbornness, and we're like, we're not going to give up. So, nana, nana, boo boo. Thank you so much. Bruce, go ahead. How are we the voice of hope for humanity?
Well, I love what Cheryl said. It's hard to kind of add to that, but just the idea of a voice of hope reminds me of the voice of God and how we are representatives of God's, you know, maybe God's humanity or the hope that God provides for us and for the rest of the people. So that the idea of a voice speaking from wherever we hear that voice is in some ways hopeful for me.
That's beautiful. Thank you. Micah, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm having this interesting Tevye reaction to this statement. Like on the one hand, on the other hand,
Yeah.
the the one hand is I'm having this reaction to the in the sentence, that we are the voice of hope, the sort of the Jewish exceptionalism that we're the only voice that we embody hope. Because I think that those are both challenging ideas to me. I think that lots of peoples have brought hope into the world, and I wouldn't want to say we are the voice of hope. Nor do I think that Jews always embody hope. I think we also do bad things in the world, and so I'm sort of wary of that statement. But on the other hand, as Tevye would say, Judaism has always, to me, had this idea at its very core that the world can be better than it is, and that we have this responsibility to make it better than it is. And I just think that has, sat at this very center. That's the Messiah. That's Tikkun Olam. That's releasing the sparks. And I think that that sits at the very core of Jewish life. And that is something special and unique that we have contributed to the world around us.
So you hung out with Jonathan Sacks because he's going to say a lot of those things. I think you're right. I think you're right. I know, right? I met him once. I moved to Atlanta in 2010, and he was speaking at one of the synagogues there, and I got to meet him, which was an incredible honor. And I still remember, 15 years later, I still remember what he talked about. So he talked about this stuff. He talked about equal justice and the need to show up for each other. It was beautiful. It was really moving. Anything else that anyone wants to add about how and why we're the voice of hope? Okay, so we're going to go back to what Rabbi Sacks has to say, because he just says it so incredibly well. Let's see. Okay. So he had 9 ideas in this article, and I numbered them, and I pulled them out. He did not number them 1 through 9. This is my doing. Okay, so when you go back and you read it on your own, you're going to be like, I didn't see that there. Yes. This is what I did. So first of all, he steeps it all in Torah, right? The Torah is the source of hope. Yes, of course, right? The whole of Judaism, though it would take a book to show it, is a set of laws and narratives designed to create habits that defeat despair. Laws and narratives designed to create habits that defeat despair. What I think is so amazing about Jonathan Sacks is that he was a conservative rabbi, and he was the chief rabbi for the conservative movement in England. He also was the chief rabbi for the Orthodox movement in England, and he also regularly spoke and taught in liberal audiences. And you see that coming through here, right? That He doesn't say that it's only law. So for those of us here who are deeply committed to our Judaism, but aren't deeply committed to Jewish law, we still are part of this collective. And I love how he names that, which is beautiful and inclusive. And I think part of what makes us hopeful. Right? But if we think about our holidays, our celebrations, our life cycle, that's everything, as creating habits that defeat despair. I find it a really lovely reorientation to the tools that we have. Right? I'm getting ready to officiate a wedding tomorrow, and I was speaking with a couple earlier, and I said to them, I want to know the names of the people who won't be there, who you're going to feel their presence, and we're going to give name to their presence as part of the wedding, right? This is how I frame King of the Glass, is to include people that aren't with us, to remember that life is fragile. I think this is such a hopeful moment, because I think that Judaism, for example, gives us space to have room to feel despair. Right? Doesn't make the wedding less beautiful and less amazing. And in many ways, it really adds fulfillment and fullness to the experience, to say it is our habit to name those we are missing, and not let that necessarily erode the beauty of the occasion. All right, the next thing that he shared. Judaism is the voice of hope in the conversation of mankind. And he added this other line that I wanted to bring in here. There is no more challenging vocation. So I'm with you, Micah. I struggle with the right? The voice of hope in the conversation of mankind. And I like this little add-on here. There's no more challenging vocation. I really resonate with that in the world right now. I think that we are facing a world that is in deep upheaval. And I see in people around me, and I feel within myself, the desire to just quit, right? To shut it down and put our heads in the sand and just let it all go. And I love this call within Judaism to not do that. Right? There's no more challenging vocation, because it's hard to be called to be the voice of hope in the conversation of mankind. It's a lot of responsibility for all of us here. By the way, if anyone has any comments as we go, please just raise your hand and jump right in. I want to move quickly because I know we're short on time, but stop me and everything will be exactly as it should be. All right, the third thing that he talked about is defiance, right? So we've got Torah, we've got voice, as Bruce so astutely pointed out, and defiance. It's no accident that Judaism has been opposed by every empire that sought to deny people the freedom to be equal but different. Just let this sit for a second. So, not that we have perpetually challenged the world around us, right? This is how we have invented hope, and have done this. Oh wait, I see that people are writing things in the chat, which I can't see from here. Micah, if anybody writes anything in the chat that I should know, will you tell me? Thank you so much. Right? We constantly live in a place of standing up, especially in the face of the lack of freedom, particularly in the lack of freedom to be different. And largely because that's what we've lived, right? We are people who have modeled this. We are people who have been different and have fought to have freedom anyway. And it's been a millennia's fight that we continue to engage in. All right, number 4, vision. So we have voice, we have vision. Judaism is a sustained struggle, the greatest ever known against the world that is, in the name of the world that could be, should be, and is not yet. So Judaism has a sense of vision of what can be but is not yet. It's a deep act of creation to imagine something that doesn't exist.
Rachel, if I can just interject, that Susan just put into the chat, quoting Debbie Friedman, not by might, not by power, but by spirit alone. And of course, Debbie Friedman there is quoting, is it the book of Zechariah? I can't remember, but it's one of the prophets. And as you were reading this, it occurred to me that this is very prophetic.
Yeah. Yeah, thank you for the call, right? I mean, as we think about prophecy in general and Jewish prophecy in general, right? This idea of like, we can imagine something other than what we live in right now. And that takes a lot of, oh gosh, letting go. It takes a lot of letting go. Janet, I see you have your hand raised. Unmute and share with us, please.
I was also thinking of Debbie Friedman. One of my favorite songs, in fact, I use it as my signature block on my email, the song, "And the Youth Shall Be Visions." Give us time, give us strength, give us life. And that's like the vision of making the world a better place. And I think that, to me, that says it all. Because we have a vision of hope, no matter what's going on, and there are difficult times. But if we have the time and the strength and the life, we have the ability to not complete the work, but to start the work. I think that song is the most inspiring. And as I said, my favorite, Debbie Friedman.
That's a good one. Of all the Debbie Friedmans, I mean, they're all great. And that one is particularly wonderful. I love the addition of needing strength to have vision, right? Needing time to have vision. So there's, as we think about hope, there's so many skills and tools that we can rely on to build the groundwork from which these things will flourish and bloom. Okay. I'm watching the time here. So along the idea of vision, right, is also imagination. Only beings who can imagine the world other than it is are capable of freedom. Oof. And if we are free, the future is open and dependent on us. I find this stunning, right? The idea that if you can imagine it, you can build it. And thinking about times of struggle and challenge, personally, socially, collectively, how we can be so depressed, right? So shut down that the ability to imagine becomes eroded. And so the power of being imaginative. Last week in our Torah reading cycle, we read Pekudei, which is yet again another portion in Exodus where we're reading about the building of the tabernacle and the Mishkan. And I sat there with my congregation, and as we talked through it, we imagined it, right? We sat there and imagined, what does this thing look like? And it was such a profound exercise to sit there and think about, like, how do all these things fit together? That there has to be a sense of creativity and imagination and an ability to think like, okay, we're going to design a God box that we're going to carry around the wilderness. What's that going to look like, right? And how that requires so much, creativity. Micah.
Sorry, I know I keep talking, but you're bringing up so much.
Please, I love it. I love it. I love it. I love it.
This idea that imagination leads to freedom, I just blew my mind, because I think that that's exactly right. You know, what authoritarian regimes try to do is to stifle people's ability to imagine. They control the media. They control what is true, right? They declare anything that disagrees with them to be fake truth, or to be untrue, to be fake news. But what does Judaism do? It encourages us to imagine. And when we imagine, we're free. And when you're free, you can't really be controlled, right? Then those who are in power, who are trying to use fear to control us, will never really win, as long as we can imagine something different.
Yeah. And then also, you know where to go, right? Like, if I can't imagine a world other than the one that I might feel trapped in, then even if I can figure out how to exit the world, where do I go next? I'm still stuck, right? I'm still stuck in the place that I was. And so I think just imagination is beautiful. And to your point, Michael, also when we think about, governments that try to shut down peoples, they take away the art, right? They take away the poetry and the visual arts and the music and all those things, because they inspire imagination. They inspire us to think freely and differently. And so we will hold on to Debbie Friedman with all of our might, because she gives us that hope in allowing us to imagine. All right, number 6. How are we for time? Oh, great. We've got like 4 more in 7 minutes. Perfect. I have to move my face off of the screen, and your face is off the screen so you can read this. We always never know. That is a turn of phrase that I learned from a teacher of mine, Miriam Klotz. Her son coined this phrase, and she has shared it with many of her students along the way. You always never know, and I just love that as an idea. We can know the beginning of our story, but not the end. Think about Genesis. It ends with the promise unfulfilled. Judaism and hope are about there not being an ending. And this one blows my mind, like every time I think about this, right? Genesis is the work of creation is not yet done. The Torah ends and the people are about to go into the promised land, but they're not yet there. Chronicles, which is our last book in our Jewish canon, the Jews are in exile and we're waiting to see what happens next, right? Judaism cultivates the sense of we are not at the end. When people, right, I'm ordained within the Reform movement. Right? People, when they say reformed, past tense, rabbi, it drives me crazy because that is not how anything in Judaism works. Nothing is done. Nothing is complete. It is all in process and evolution. Creation is still going and ongoing today. And therefore, we can always know that it's not going to be this way forever. Whatever it is, right? Good, bad, or indifferent. We have this great Talmudic story of the king who wants a reminder. I don't think it's in Talmud. A reminder of things will change, and he finds this artisan who makes this ring that says Gam zeh ya'avor, this too will pass. Good and the bad, it's all just gonna keep on going. It's all gonna change. The story is never ever done. All right, number 7, being focused on the future, right? We've seen touches of this as we've read. None of the things that we've talked about so far about looking backwards, right? We grow from the past, but we're not dwelling in it. So that is why as God is about to take the Israelites from slavery to freedom, God tells Moses that God's name is Ehyeh Asher Ehyeh. I will be what I will be. God's name belongs to the future tense. His call is to that which is not yet. And if we fail to understand this, we will miss the very thing that makes Judaism unique. Right? That we are looking to a better world, another world, the world to come. I mean, all of our framing is about that sense of future. I particularly find this resonant as we get ready for Passover, hearkening back to our Exodus story. All right, not yet. Along these lines, in the fine phrase of Harold Fish, I don't know who Harold Fish is. I'm sorry, I did not have a chance to look up before we got here today, but Sachs likes him, so I'm pro whoever this guy is. The unappeased memory of a future still to be fulfilled. Ultimately, this was the dividing line between Judaism and Christianity. To be a Jew is to reply to the question, has the Messiah come? And the answer is, not yet. And this was just a fun picture. We had our Jewish Food and Cultural Festival here last week, and this was the tent that I sat in the cultural festival. A priest, a rabbi, and a minister walk into a food fest, and here we are all sitting together saying not yet or yet, and talking it through. These are my these are my priest friends. Okay. And number 9, the almost last one, I put one of my own in here. Choice. At the heart of Judaism is a belief so fundamental to Western civilization that we take it for granted, yet it is anything but self-evident. It has been challenged many times, rarely more so than today. Remember, he wrote this article a decade ago. It's the belief in human freedom. We are what we choose to be. Society is what we choose to make it. The future is open. There is nothing inevitable in the affairs of humankind. I'm finding this really, really, really meaningful right now. That as things here in America, I think everyone looking at the list of where people are, I think Micah, everyone but you is in the United States. But we're feeling the effect. No, we have more outside of the US people. My apologies. Forgive me. I feel a sense of, as the world is kind of getting thrown up in the air here in America, the sense of like, well, we're just going to ride the wave. But, maybe we don't have to. Maybe we can interrupt what is happening. So here's my concluding thought. And then anybody who wants to jump in with their concluding thoughts would love to hear it. That hope is not about ignoring despair. it's about hope anyway, especially when the despair looms. And going on anyway, I'm not sure what I was trying to write there, but that didn't quite come out as English. This is how Jews have invented hope, right? That we know how to hold both hope and despair together. That light and dark are opposites, but hope and despair are in relationship with each other. So thank you, everyone. And now let's hear what Susan has to say.
This is the fundamental definition of resilience. And to be a Jew is to be resilient. And you cannot give up even in your darkest hour. Otherwise, you're going to die, spiritually at least. And if you can maintain a sense of hope, a sense of inquiry, a sense of curiosity and imagination, you will be a resilient person and hopefully resilient human people.
I love it. Anyone else have anything they want to add? Thank you, Susan. That was great. You had 2 whole minutes to say anything you want. You have like a forum and people who are going to listen and everything. So, don't blow it. Well, I will tell you that you guys meeting every week makes me hopeful. And getting to be here with you makes me hopeful. Vicky and then Rachel.
I think we can really say about the art and the poetry and the music and literature and film, the creative arts really is. And you see that trying to be shut down with the Kennedy Center here and and museums and the zoo. Tell me what's woke about an animal. I don't know. And the National Zoo hits home with me because that's my home zoo. That's the zoo I went to as a little baby, as a child. So it's just, that's what we can't shut down, and that's what we have to keep. And we keep reading and we keep creating and doing. And that brings hope too, and resisting. So thanks. This was really nice for today.
Thanks, Vicky. I hope that, I don't know why you guys come and sit and do this, right? What brings you into this space? And I would love to know, and we don't have time for you to tell me right now. So maybe next time we'll make sure we have time for that. My hope is that whatever it is that you glean on a Thursday at noon, that it gives you more tools, more skills, more resilience, more, ability to navigate in our own personal struggles, in our, global struggles, our humanitarian struggles, so that we can keep, doing what Judaism tells us, which is to be the voice of hope, be a voice of hope in the conversation with humanity.